Sir, I'll grant you a chair's point of privilege. If there's something that you felt that was spoken out of school, go ahead to the microphone and state your name and address again for the record. Thank you.
Well, thank you for the opportunity. My name is Steve Hassett, 2932 Window Road Southeast. That's in the Governor Stevens and Caroline neighborhood. There were some points raised, and some were confusing to me, but I'd like to hope to clarify something, or at least raise a question in your mind. And Commissioner Horn raised a question at one point to Mr. Stam as to where the termini was of the transportation corridor, you said, out by the airport at Tumwater Boulevard. I just want to emphasize, if it's not clear already, that we are only concerned with the portion of that transportation corridor that is within the city of Olympia, from Caroline Ave north to the I-5 bridge. But it raised the question in my mind, and I don't really understand the relationship between the transportation corridor and the high-density urban corridor, although obviously they are related. The gentleman here raised the issue of a certain level of density required for transportation purposes. But I think if this density is calculated on the aggregate or average for the entire transportation corridor, that raises a serious concern, because if you consider large parts of the corridor in Tumwater, there is no, and if it is based on residential density as opposed to number of people in an office building or so on, there are large areas of Capitol Way in Tumwater where there are no residential development on either side of the road. You have I-5 in the stretch between Custer, St. Trosper. You have I-5 on one side, the Tumwater Valley Golf Course on the other, and one small neighborhood down in Tumwater Valley. You have the brewery on both sides in that area. So if the density has to be averaged out, I think that actually the Caroline North, Governor Stevens, and Wildwood neighborhoods are actually some of the densest in that stretch now as it is. So I think that's a point to be taken into consideration. Commissioner Barden asked the question about, are there alternatives, or are there ways to get to some of the density, or to increase the density from the 4 to 7 units per acre that we're now zoned at? There may well be. But I would just raise the caution or the concern of unintended consequences. Before I moved into that neighborhood in 1999, I lived in Seattle for 15 years. And I lived in the Wallingford neighborhood, and we went through the experience there of developers coming in, tearing down perfectly sound houses, many of them craftsman bungalows from the 20s and 30s, and building what they call skinny houses to a lot in order to increase density. And I understand the pressures on families trying to buy houses in Seattle and then the prices going up. But it really changed the nature of neighborhoods to come in and put these houses that destroy the character of the neighborhood in order to increase density. So that would be a concern I would have. This segues into the issue about, and this is just my personal opinion only, but the Sunset Life building and the new building being built on those grounds. I mean, there's a building, I doubt if it was on the historical register, but certainly a building with some historic character and beautifully landscaped grounds. And it appears that a new building is being put up, sort of go right out to the sidewalk in every angle. And as I understand it from the testimony, there is no tenant. I worked for the state until I retired last year. I had the experience of working in Woodland Square Loop in Lacey, and then moving to a building out by the airport. And you could go back to Woodland Square Loop and see buildings for 2 or 3 years afterwards that were empty. Other people moved into our building in Tumwater who were in Plum Street. And certainly there were a lot of vacancies in Plum Street then. The building we moved into in Tumwater is the Attorney General's office. The developer out there started to put a new building up next to it, put the steel framework up in order to comply with the deadline for Tumwater, and then left it. Either went bankrupt or just never went back to it. So for years we had a steel framework up and nothing else. And this sort of raises concerns that we in our neighborhood have of a sort of development without without any real foresight or any real planning. I understand you're the planning commission, but I also understand you don't necessarily have authority once the zoning is done or once the decisions are made. But, you know, I think we've all seen a number of buildings around here unoccupied, strip malls developed and then sitting there, commercial buildings put up in the past decade and being underutilized. So the question is, why is another building needed in Tumwater that destroys the character of a beautiful building already? But more importantly, what does this mean for the surrounding neighborhoods? Is this an indication of the sort of development we fear if the urban corridor is maintained in their neighborhood and if zoning should be changed? I would just raise that as a sort of caution of the unintended consequences. And just finally, as an aside, I'm personally aware of 9 houses with about a 4-block radius of the corner where I live on Greenville, Governor Stevens, with the historical designations. And that's just walking around the neighborhood. So if there's any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hassett. Gretchen Nelson has come back in yet? No? Sir, would you like to testify? Is there anybody else who hasn't had a chance this evening? It's my intent as chair not to close the hearing this evening. It will be continued on to Wednesday, July 25th, essentially beginning at 6:30. So, but I do want to encourage you to, if you have the documents to submit to the commission, continue to do so through this and interface with staff on this if you've got questions about, again, our process. But so right now the record won't close at this point. We'll continue the public hearing until Wednesday. Commissioners, anything to say at this point? All right. Thank you very much for being here. We're going to continue on with our agenda, which is basically some housekeeping and some committee reports. But again, the portion of the public hearing will continue to be open. Commissioners, let's take a 5-minute break, and actually I'll meet you back here at 8:30.